Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Corinne Bean on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from the UK, where this is the first time we have like an interesting story about why I guess is where they're at. She's originally from the States, which, I mean, just from talking to her for 2 seconds, you will realize that, because that's the one thing when I first got in contact with her and I saw her talking on video and I was like, she doesn't sound British to me, because I've had like 20 of them on. But yeah, she's originally from California. Now she's out there, and yeah, we'll talk a little about that as well as, and she's also a bodybuilder, and we'll talk about her health and fitness journey as well. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Corinne, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I gotta ask this first off, because I ask it to every guest. What is the weather like today in the UK?
It was actually sunshiny, which is amazing because the weather is definitely not like that. And when it's out, like everybody's out. So weather was good, still cold. You still need a sweatshirt, but I was doing it in my shorts today because, you know,
So, being originally from California and moving to the UK, what was probably the biggest difference that you've had to deal with?
everything. It's so funny because everyone thinks it's really not going to be that big of a deal because you speak the same language, but everything here is just a little bit inconvenient to make it a lot inconvenient. And it's a much different lifestyle, but one of my favorite things that they say is like, oh, you just get on with it. And it's true, like you do. And yeah, yeah, everything's just a little bit inconvenient, but not so inconvenient that you have to like rearrange your whole day, but you need to leave a little bit earlier in case you get stuck behind a bike or a tractor or a runner or something. So I think that's like the hardest part. Like driving on the opposite side of the road's not a big deal. Like you just get used to it. But
Have you become a tea drinker since you've been over there?
no, I have not. I'm drinking like it's a decaf
Thank
coffee,
God.
but
Thank God.
yeah, I have tried to like tea many times here, but I just yeah, just
I
haven't.
would have to page the consulate and tell her to revoke your citizenship then if you became a tea. I mean, I've had so many. I mean, like I said, I've had like 20 of them on, and they're just, they just chug that stuff, and I don't get it. I've tried it once or twice with a friend who really likes it, and I just honestly don't get it myself. But before we get too much into that, I mean, Kareem, why don't you just to start off, give us your backstory and what inspired and motivated you to be in shape and eventually become a bodybuilder?
Yeah, so I've always been a really active individual. I did gymnastics growing up, and I got into bodybuilding after I was in school in Montana, and I had seen one of my old gymnastics teammates post this picture in a bikini, this sparkly bikini, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like what is that?" She's like, "Oh, it's a bikini competition." This was way back in like 2012, 2013. I don't even think like bikini was like a big category yet. And I was like, cool. Like, what do you think of it? She's like, oh, it did like a world of good for my confidence. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna do that because my self-esteem and my confidence has always kind of been just not very good. So I thought that getting up on stage wearing like the tiniest bit of clothing was a good idea. So um, that's what I did. I got an online trainer, had no idea what I was doing. My tan looked horrible. Didn't learn how to pose until the night before or meet my coach in person. Yeah, or in person till the night before. I don't think she had coached many girls either. So I don't know. But I remember getting off stage and being like, the next time that I do this, I'm going to do it the right way. And you can go back, like, I don't even know what competition it was, but you can go back on, I think, News online, and I can search that competition and I can find my name, but there's like no placing. Like I'm in the competition, but no placing. Um, so it's kind of funny. I didn't compete again until 2017, and I got an actual coach that is an IFBB pro figure lady. She doesn't compete anymore, but that was in Montana. And I asked her, I was like, what if I wanted to do this seriously? Like, what do I need to do? She's like, well, you really have to work on your confidence. I lived in sports bras. I did cross country and track and field in college. And I she was like, You got to learn how to be more of a girl." And I even had a job at like Victoria's Secret. Like, what better place to learn how to be a girl? And I just always just really self-conscious. I've had a really big just struggle with eating disorders and all sorts of things like that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And my husband, who's my boyfriend at the time, was like, yeah, you should do it. Like, go for it. And did one little local show and it was great. Did another one and placed fourth. And then we he got orders over here and I didn't do it again until there was like a base local show. And I decided to enter it 'cause he was like, yeah, like you need to do something. Like you're kind of making me crazy and you're going crazy. Cause it's weird, like you move out of your comfort zone and I really had to be somebody different and the whole emotional thing of that was has not been a fun ride. Anyways, I did a competition there and I connected with a judge who happened to come on the base and judge our competition. And my husband deployed. I went and trained with him. He's like, "You need to do some competitions. You do really well." And he got me into a small organization around the UK called IBFA, but it's more traditional old school bodybuilding. And I did that. And in my little posing routine that I had, I did an aerial cartwheel, which is a cartwheel without hands. And a bunch of people were like, oh my gosh, you need to do fitness. And I said, well, I've always been kind of curious about fitness because that's my background, but the only person I'd ever heard of was Oksana Grishina, and I looked out what her training cost, and no thanks. So, um, so I'll go this way. But they introduced me to Kate Arrington, who is my current trainer, and she's fitness. She just competed in the Arnold, and I connected with her. Um, Competed in a regional show, qualified for the national show right away, which was the next day, and won my pro card. Wasn't really sure what I had won because I was like, oh wow, that was fast. And then I competed my first pro season last year. Wow, I'm super long winded. I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Take your time. I love it.
um, competed my first pro season last year. It was really great. I just have a much smaller physique than what they're looking for fitness, and I'm not willing to use anything to make myself bigger. And the whole process of having an off season where you grow and gain a lot of weight is super uncomfortable. I made myself do it because I didn't want eating disorder stuff to stop me like it had in the past. So I was like, nope, I'm going to do this. And it was really, really hard, but I did it. And I got on stage 4 times, not just once. Super proud of myself. But this year I decided I was going to go back to bikini. And the original reason was to build my confidence. I competed in gymnastics when I was younger. So um, you can in the fitness category for me I felt that like I could kind of hide behind my routine because the routine is worth more than your physique, but I really didn't feel like I was working on the things I really wanted to, and that I really wanted to work on the confidence part. And in bikini I feel like there's more poise, there's more glamour, there's more there's more femininity. And like I said earlier, not really all that feminine. I'm always like, how do I even dress myself in regular clothes? My husband's better at that stuff than I am. So, um, yeah, and here we are.
So do you think that that background in gymnastics really helped you in this sport? Because I've talked to a lot of bodybuilders, and a significant amount of the female ones have that background in gymnastics. Because I think it just automatically like it's hard to sort of lose that muscle memory that gymnastics gives you, just because it's such a there's so much stuff in gymnastics that really I think benefits when it just comes to the stamina that this sport requires. But do you think that that background in gymnastics has helped you when you made the turn into bodybuilding?
Absolutely. Gymnastics gives you such a discipline and a good awareness of your body. And you need that in bodybuilding. If you can have that awareness in your body, especially that mind muscle connection, I think that's super helpful. I think a lot of people get like when they first start bodybuilding, it's like, oh, it's a little bit slow, but you have like that slow eccentric movement and um yeah, so gymnastics definitely helps. And then you like when you add in the discipline and the mindset that you have with each of them, like there's a lot of focus and there's a lot that goes into it. So it's a both sports are a whole lifestyle thing. Like it's not like and this is nothing against any other sports because every sport has their own challenges, but a lot of sports have off seasons and gymnastics and like ice skating and bodybuilding, like you don't have an off season. You're always training. You have competition season, but you're always going to be training. And it seems like with other sports, yes, you're always training, but you're able to take a little bit more time off. Like if you take 2 weeks off of bodybuilding, 2 weeks off of gymnastics, it's like, oh, I feel like gotta start at square one. So
Absolutely. And I mean, I also love to talk genetics on this podcast because everybody is on social media and I see this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms. I want her abs. I want their back. And just want to strangle them and just be like, you do not understand that you can train just like someone and eat just like them and you're not going to see those results. But on top of that, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind. They have to train to oblivion. My back was the one thing that took off for me. But I'm 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just absolutely shot where I could inject pure muscle into my legs. And calves don't even get me started on that. But what was one body part for you that really, really took off? And then what was one body part that you just had to drag behind?
oh geez, a body part that really took off. I'm gonna say my quads just because I've I've been a runner. I did a lot of gymnastics. Um and they always have kind of like nice cuts. Um yeah, yeah, but I don't really feel like they like grew. Um that's a tough question, and I'm also pretty hard on myself, so I'm not really sure. I'm gonna say my quads just because like when I work them out or when I'm doing like leg extensions, like I can see the cuts and I'm like, oh, I'm impressed with myself right now. So I'm gonna say my quads. My shoulders. No, they took forever to grow. Side delt raises at 5 pounds. I swear I was doing that forever. I was telling one of my clients this the other day. She's like, oh, these are so hard. I was like, well, that's okay. I was at 8 pounds for like 2 years. And when I move up, I'm there for like 2 years. And it just takes forever. And that was like one of the things in the fitness category that, oh, you need to have like more up here. And I'm like, dude, okay. And I can always, one of the things that they said in when I did the bikini competitions, I needed to be tighter in my butt. And now, like, the glute tie and hamstring is like the thing that it seems like they're looking for. At least when I go back in and watch like the critiques of the last Arnold Sports Festival, I'm like, ooh, yeah, it's a toughie.
Yeah, that is one, especially for the bikini competitors I've heard about. Yeah, that glute tie-in where, yeah, that is tricky. But I mean, like you said before, from suffering from eating disorders and everything, but the nutrition with bodybuilding is like the exact opposite, where you're going to be eating so much more food, and like even in your off season, like putting on that weight. I mean, people do not understand that this is also a sport too, where it's like you eat more than a lot of like if you were obese and you started this sport, a lot of times you'll be eating more than you were when you were obese. But just because you work out so much and you do all that, you're going to be losing some weight. But what was that adjustment like for you going from someone who had eating disorders to now being where at sometimes it must feel like you're just stuffing your face in basically?
Um, very, very hard. Right now, it's doable. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of switch back to bikini. When I when I was doing fitness, all throughout COVID, we were planning to compete in 2020, but obviously we didn't. So it was good because it gave me a chance to grow and do that slowly. And this may not seem like much to some people, but putting on 10 pounds for me was like, oh my gosh, like it was a nightmare. Like
Oh,
all
I
of
know
my,
those people that are built just like you though too, where it's like for them to put on 10 pounds, it's like for someone else to put on like 30.
yeah, yeah. And like it was a nightmare. Like all my clothes still fit, they just fit a little bit more snug. My husband was like, your butt looks great. And I'm just like, oh my, like I just, sorry. I'm just like, it was just so uncomfortable. And it really kind of, um, it kind of made some of my other tendencies worse. And I promised my mom, I was like, I won't continue this if it's not healthy for me. Well, that was a lie because oh my God, it did get like a little bit unhealthy. And then once we got into prep, like where we could take food away, um, oh my gosh, like things were so much better. But then I started struggling with like stress, like a crazy amount of stress of like wanting to make sure that when I got on stage, I was going to be ready. And I was so worried that I wasn't going to lose weight that I couldn't even go to the bathroom. And it was bad. It was so bad and so uncomfortable. And I was just like, I'm not doing it like this again. If I continue it, it has to be different. Like, I, no, or I have to be able to go for a run. And if I have to eat more food to gain weight, but I'm able to like go for a run, I just didn't really feel like I had an outlet. Like I had to eat, I had to work out, which that was my outlet, but that only compensates so much when you're trying to gain weight. And running has always been like something just I've loved to do. I learned the place that I lived in Montana, I learned Great Falls better on my feet than in my car. So um not being able to do that kind of stuff was just incredibly hard and kind of like made things worse for a little bit. But then like once we got into prep, it was like a lot easier and more manageable. And I think I've told my trainer twice since we started this new program, like this feels so much more doable. So yeah.
Yes, that is always a great thing to say. And I mean, speaking about your mom, what were your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them, like, "Hey, I want to give bodybuilding a try"? Because that's not something that a lot of people hear.
Yeah. So my parents, let's see, back when I was in Montana. So when I was in Montana, I was in college. Um, I just remember pulling out my suit with my roommate because my my roommate had done pageants before, and she's from Colorado. So she kind of had like a little bit of an idea. But I remember pulling it out of the box and like, oh my God, Sam, this is what I'm wearing. And she was just giggling. And I'd gone home, and I think I had told my parents that I was doing it, but I don't remember their initial reaction. But I know that when I went home, my dad was like, "I want to see what you're gonna be wearing," and I'm like, "I don't think you do." And he was like, "Nope, I want to see what you're gonna be wearing." I was like, all right. And he was actually more upset that I had pierced my belly button than what I was going to be wearing. So um, they've always been like more like, oh, this is what you want to do. Great. Like, we'll support you. Like in gymnastics, same thing. But they've never been like, yeah, do it, do it. Like, we'll help you do this, we'll help you do that. In gymnastics, definitely a little bit more because I was living at home and a lot younger. I think for a while they thought that it was really weird. My sister still kind of makes fun of the tan. She's like, wow, your tans are finally starting to look a little bit better now. But I think now that I've taken it more seriously and that I did make it to the pro level, like my sister's like, she's asked more questions about like working out. And she was like, oh, yeah, I noticed that down the road there's a trainer. And Corinne, I can't believe I was thinking about this, but I was kind of thinking, I was like, what if I did a competition? And I was like, and what if you did? Like, like great. And my parents asked me, and my family, like cousins asked me for different training advice. And it's kind of cool. Sometimes I do feel a little bit hypocritical because I do struggle with my own health. But every time I feel like I help somebody, it also really helps me. So they've always been very supportive in their own sort of way. They haven't been to a pro show. I think they've only been to, my mom and my sister have only been to that very first competition. And um, mm, my first pro show, they live streamed it, which I didn't think that they would. So I was like, "Hey, this is here," and they did. And actually, the lady who had made my outfit did as well. So, um, yeah, yeah.
That is great. I mean, yeah, just having that little support at all is so much better than because like I've heard so many stories on this podcast of people that don't have that support, and it makes this lifestyle so much harder for them. But this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport, and people do not understand that because they'll just see the physical changes and they'll say, "Oh, Kareem, you look amazing," that's about it really, because that's all that they see, but they don't understand that mental transformation that's taken place as well. And it's, 100 times more important than any physical change. But what has this sport done for you mentally? Because the effect that the mental side of this has is, vastly more important than anything physical.
It has made me realize that I can handle way more than I think I can. Um, Physically, you go in and you challenge your body every day, because sometimes you don't even want to go in and you're 15 minutes into your workout and you're like, damn, I got this. And it just really empowers you and makes you feel good. And if you can apply those little things to every other area to your life, like what are you even doing? I feel so many different things physically first. Like I get most of my ideas for even just my own health with like, if I can do this in the gym, why can't I do this in the kitchen? Like, why can't I be this motivated in the kitchen? Or why can't I be this motivated to understand tax law? And taxes are due soon. Like different things like that. Um, but it's just made me realize that there's so many things that I do mediocre, and there's so many things that other people do mediocre, and it kind of makes you a little bit sad, but then also makes you a little bit like, dude, I can do anything. So I think it's done a world of good for my confidence, like so much for my confidence, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just those mental changes. I mean, I that should just be a podcast in and of itself. But you talked about how you didn't even learn the posing until the night of your first show, and that to me is just like, oh my god. But what is your experience been like with posing since then? Because most people don't understand that that is the hardest thing for a lot of these competitors that I have on.
Oh my gosh. So I feel so dumb posing. When man, I remember what I was wearing in that hotel room learning how to pose. It was just so awkward. She's like, "Oh, you gotta make like an S curve and you gotta do this and you gotta like pose like," and I'm like, "Oh my God, like right. Okay, I don't even know how to walk in heels, but sure, this is gonna be great. So embarrassing, and I'm gonna be bright orange." And I was definitely orange. Um, I'll have to like send you like the picture that like the one picture that I have. Um, then when I learned how to pose later, I just felt just so silly, so awkward, and so just this is not me, but this is why I'm doing it. And then when I came over here and I did the IBFA, the guy suggested for me to do a category called figure athletic. And I kind of did like women's physique posing, but then we also did a routine. And I found that to be kind of cool. So we did like your back double buys and triceps, and I didn't feel
Which,
as
first of
off.
all, I found that's unique because British bodybuilding seems to be the only thing that like actually does that for like fitness and like talking to some of these British bodybuilders and they're like, oh yeah, we actually do like some of the physique poses, and I was like, oh okay, that's a big difference for so many people that have done it in both countries.
Yeah, it's a lot different because I think because they have a lot more like federations or organizations here. And then they have a lot of different categories and criteria for each one of them. Like in this one federation, they have like 7 categories for women. It's like figure athletic, figure regular, figure bikini. And I'm like, oh, which one am I supposed to go? And he's like, oh, well, you have ab separation, so you should go in. And I'm like, okay. And each one had different criteria and a different type of suit, or they were similar, but you had to do the different poses, and then we had to do an actual routine to music. So it actually kind of gave you a lot more time on stage, which was really cool. But they were smaller federations. Um, and that was kind of neat to just get on stage that way. And then when I learned how to do like your figure fitness posing where you have to do your quarter turns, I felt very like, oh, like, all right. And I really had like, especially like with your back pose when you're trying to do the lats, but it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I ever actually hit it on stage. Like I could hit it when I practiced, but when I look back at my photos, I was either small from cutting down, or I just couldn't get it, or the photo wasn't right. But I mean, they're taking pictures the whole time, so they'd have to get at least the right photo, and you have to hold it at some point. Um, so I think that was really hard. But now I think I've learned a little bit more about the confidence, a little bit more about the grace. I've learned more how to walk in heels, and developed myself a little bit and how I want to look on stage. And I've helped a couple of other girls. And I'm like, how do I want to present myself on stage? I'm like, okay, I want to be elegant. I want to be graceful. I want to be feminine. How can I portray that into my posing? And it makes it less awkward. And then at the same time, I want to make sure that my personality is in there where it's a little bit bubbly, so a little bit happy. And okay, how do I do that with graceful and elegant? And I've been having fun kind of experimenting and listening to some of the what's the one so with Team Elite Physique, I think I've been listening to some of their podcasts. I'm like, okay, well, if you want to be one of the top contenders, like you need to emulate some of these girls. And obviously, you don't want to copy them, but like if these are the transitions that are working, if this is how they're doing their hair, if this is how they're popping their glutes, like you're gonna want to do that too. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I think the more knowledge that I've given myself rather than just relying on your coach or your trainer, the more that you can bring to the table for yourself. And again, as far as like that whole like potential thing, like take responsibility for what you're going to bring. Um, and I think sometimes we rely on like, oh, well, my trainer said to do this. Well, oh, it's my trainer's fault. And I'm like, no, it's my fault. So,
Absolutely, yeah. And out of all the divisions that you compete in, out of all the poses that you've had to learn, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
um, I think my least favorite pose, I feel more comfortable with it now, but the back bikini pose, because it just when I was a little bit younger, it just felt a little like I shouldn't be like doing that.
When I first figured that out too, I was like, okay, why is that a thing? Like, what? It just seems like that was one guy's just like, hey, I got a great pose for these ladies to do. Yeah, that's just really, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but when I think once you understand what you're actually looking for, then you know. And actually, when I had done the competition in 2017, you had the option to cross your legs, and I crossed my legs because I was like, I just feel really uncomfortable right now. That's how I practice. But now, just getting a little bit more used to that. So I feel like that was kind of like one that was a little bit uncomfortable for me, but now I'm a little bit more used to it. Um, let's see, I think what would be my favorite pose? I don't know if this counts, but going from like your side pose in bikini where you like transition and like step back before you step forward, there's like a nice pause there, and it shows like that little S curve, and it just looks very feminine, and I really like it. So yeah.
Yeah. And when you finally won your pro card, because I mean, for so many people, they don't understand that for a lot of these athletes, winning their pro card, I mean, that is the affirmation that they've been looking for. You, I mean, you can finally compete in these pro shows. What was that moment like for you when they announced your name and you realized, oh my God, I'm a pro now?
It was kinda crazy because honestly, like, I didn't really know what it meant. I, um, because I had done a couple of the bikini shows, and then I had done the ones over in the UK, and I didn't realize that by entering into the finals that it was like a pro show, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm just going in to have fun. I'd done the one show on, I think it was a Saturday, and then the finals were the next day. So they had done finals all year, and everybody else was coming to that show as well. So there were only, I think, four of us there. And the girl that won the day before was also in the competition. And so she had placed second. And I'm such like a dork, but I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I never won a competition, like any competition. I was so excited, and my sister and I, when we were younger, we used to watch like Miss Congeniality. When she's like talking about the crown, I was like, "I won!" I was like, I was. My husband was like he was filming and in the background, and I had like the biggest smile on my face, and I was like, "Oh, man." And he was like, "How do you feel about, like, you get to compete with, like, Whitney Jones and this person and that person?" I'm like, "I don't even know who Whitney Jones is." Cool. I was like, I guess I got some research to do. I was like, I know exactly who 2, 2 competitors are in the fitness category. I knew who Oksana Grishina was and my coach. And then I knew who some other girls were, but I didn't really know they were fitness girls. Um, I knew who Tangi Johnson was, and then there was one other person, which clearly I don't know very well. Um, but like I I just remember being so excited that I actually won a competition. I didn't win any track meets. I didn't win any gymnastics meets. Didn't win any radio contest or anything like that. Like this was the first contest I won, and like I did the work. And one of my favorite pictures is holding the sword up over my head and this huge smile. And then we went out to eat afterwards, and my husband's like carrying this sword like he's a knight or something. And then you're not supposed to have knives in England, right? He said, so I'm basically just breaking the law carrying around a big knife in England. And I'm like, you're a dork. So,
That's one thing I've never quite got. I was like, out of all the things to give these comparators, why a sword? But I mean, I like it. It's awesome. But I was like, yeah, it's that I've seen that, and then especially like some of the powerlifters have that stuff too, where it's like, hey, I mean, I'd go the extra mile for a sword too. I mean, that's pretty that's pretty
yeah.
awesome. But I also love to talk post show blues on this podcast because most people do not understand that aren't that familiar with the sport. Where a lot of people just assume that you look like you do on stage 24/7 just because they assume that like, oh, out of all the hard work that they put into that look, they must be able to look like that all the time. But they don't understand that that is a look that, first of all, it's not a healthy look, and you're not going to be able to sustain it. What has that been like for you as your career has gone on? Has it been easier for you to accept that and embrace the post show, or is it still one of those things where you still just look at it and you're just like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get through this?
Yeah, I don't think I understood it at first. I feel like my experience leading up to the the competition that I won my pro card, I feel like everything was just kind of like me experimenting, really. So I don't know if I really had a whole lot of post show blues. It was kind of like, okay, like I did this, I competed in this competition, let's compete in another one and just continue to set goals. But I didn't have a goal after that. And that's one thing that like my trainer talks about. It's like having a goal afterwards, something that I talk to my clients about and really like anybody should talk about. Like if you graduate college, you should have a goal afterwards because you can be like, oh, I've spent like the last 4 years or 8 years, like I took 8 years to get your degree. Like, what are you going to do after that? Um, so I think after the one where I won my pro card, I was like, what do I like? What am I going to plan to compete? Because I didn't know what it meant. So I felt really dumb asking my coach that. So I was like, I don't know what this means now. And we had planned to compete, but then the next year was 2020, so 2020 is self-explanatory. Um, so weird. Can't believe we lived through that. Uh, and then for when I competed in July, my first show last year, I'd done one, and um, it was cool because I won like third place out of three. It was great though. It was awesome. I won some money. Um, I came home and my husband was like, you should do as many of these as you can right now. Because he was like, I was like, you realize I'm probably not going to win money every time. Like, I'm pretty small compared to the other girls, and there's going to be like bigger competitions. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to be leaving because he was deployed and he's still deployed. He's actually, yeah, he's still deployed. So he's always gone. He's like, I'm going to be deployed. Like, we'll give you something to focus on, which is actually really, really cool. So I didn't have that terrible experience of like the post show blues until November. So I competed July, August, then I had like 8 weeks. Then I decided to do two back to back. So I did one in Virginia and then I did one in Spain the very next weekend. So I asked my trainer, I was like, is that possible? She's like, absolutely. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So I did that. A couple people like, you're crazy. Like you're like your body's never gonna recover from it. I'm like, hmm. I feel like I put my body through like worse than time change. So like it'll be cool. Um, um, but after that, I think I was ready to be done. But then after you have like that 2 weeks of like not eating very well and like you're just like, oh, what am I like? What is next? And um, I don't know. You actually kind of have like a week of like, yeah, I'm pumped. Let's do another one. And then you're like, no, no way. And then it kind of like sets in. But I think by that time I knew that it was like, okay, like let's set a new goal. What's gonna be next. And I think originally my goal, because I was so like frustrated with the whole like weight gain process, is like, I think I'm gonna go back to running. Like I would like my body to be ready to I've had some injuries in my lower body, so I wasn't able to run. I really think that did a number on my cardio. I think it'd be great for my mental health. But then I was like, oh, then I feel like I'm giving up on myself. And then I was like, oh, but is bikini like going down a level? Because fitness is like those girls are crazy, and I wasn't even at like the crazy level. Um, but then I was like, well, what was my original goal of starting this in the very beginning? So I think by like setting that goal, and really being like, okay, I'm gonna go home and visit family. I'm gonna have some time in California. I can come back and I can focus on that, and then get ready for my husband to come home. So it was kind of like a really good leeway where I don't think I really had a whole lot of that post show blues this time. But I think by like having that experience, it is kind of like sad because like you put so much into it and it's definitely a lifestyle thing. Like you're looking in the mirror all the time, like you're questioning what you look like and wondering if you should be looking better or worse or what other people are thinking. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, cool. Steps on stage for a minute or two and now I'm done. So
Well, and I mean, being that you are, a military spouse, I mean, like, I'm not married, but I've been in relationships where, like, if my girlfriend all of a sudden told me, like, hey, I'm gonna be gone for like almost up to a year, I would just be like, what? Like, so how do you deal with that? Because, like, that, I mean, believe me, I know some couples who would be like, thank God that he's gone for a year and stuff like that. But I mean, hopefully it's not the case there. But, like, how do you deal with, those extended times of absence? Because, like, yeah, like you said, it might, for me, like, first of all, I would get bored out of my mind then and just be like, okay, what do I do now? But how do you deal with that?
it is, to be honest, like that is awful. But it again, like I read so many blogs on Pinterest. Like there, like it is a good time to like self-reflect, learn about yourself, all of that like woo-woo type stuff. It really is. And especially like being in a new country, definitely had a lot of opportunity to do that. I didn't have a job here. I didn't, we basically got here and we were living in a hotel at first. He started working nights in the
They didn't
hotel.
put you on the base or anything?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the hotel was
Oh,
on the
okay, yeah,
base.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I was
then,
gonna say I've never heard someone. Yeah, just crash in a hotel. Yeah, you'll be fine.
yeah,
You guys will be fine.
yeah. And then when they gave us the opportunity to look for a house, it was actually about this time of year, during Easter time. So a lot of things were actually closed. So that wasn't helpful. But you really you, you take the time to just develop yourself. Like we're actually like full circle and we're gonna get ready to move to our next place here pretty soon. And it's kind of crazy to think that like, wow, we've been here for 4 years and he deployed his first year here and his last year here. And um, thank goodness for the competitions because honestly, I don't think I would have done much better without them. Like I was a mess, like a mess, emotional mess. Like my emotions and hormones were all over the place. You go from a place where you have way more sun, and even in Montana, there's more sun than there is here. And it like that stuff really like does a number on you. A lot of my clients for personal training, almost every single one of them has had something to do like off with their hormones. And um oh, it's sad, because I've never been an angry person, but I have yelled at the wall. I have yelled like I have cried on the kitchen floor. Like the other day, and I'm not really somebody who complains, but I had it the other day. I was like, I had it. We had somebody that was supposed to come pick up our car that basically hasn't worked the whole time that we've been here, and I cried while I was mowing the lawn, and I cried while on the kitchen floor, and I was like,
And
"I."
the neighbor's like, "Oh, there's Corinne out there balling up a storm again."
Yeah, I was like, "I am done." And, our neighbors are actually, like, super nice. And since, like, we've been here in the same house the whole time, they kinda know us, and they knew this time that my husband was leaving, and one of them, like, he probably checked on me, like, quite a few times. That they're so nice, and when I was away at one of my competitions, they're like, "Oh, we didn't really know that you were so into fitness. That's so cool. Should we bring your pins out?" And, I'm like, "Oh, they're so sweet now that we're gonna be leaving soon, everybody's all acclimated to each other." And but I guess that's, I've been told that's kind of how it works in the military. Like you make a lot of your friends after you've been somewhere for like the good like 3 years, and then the fourth year, like you're finally comfortable with everything, and then it's like, cool, we gotta go. So it's really hard, but I think kind of like a competition, like if you can be open to learning about yourself and being independent and doing a lot on your own, you'll absolutely kill it. But if not, like you'll hate it. Like you will hate it. But I was very determined not to hate it. So
Well, and I mean, being that, I was in the US during COVID, I mean, I thought lockdowns were bad enough, but talking to some English people, I mean, lockdowns over there seemed like they were much, much worse. How did you deal with all that?
fortunately, right before everything locked down, I had purchased a like a weight equipment set, which was great. And then I happened to find somebody a little bit later in COVID that had a multi gym for sale. Now it was a very rickety one, and I still have it,
One
and
of
it's
those where you
great.
felt like it was gonna fall at any moment or break, and you're just like, "Oh, yeah."
Oh, absolutely, but it's done its job. I even held clients in my garage. I had garage workouts. Um, I handled it by, fortunately, the weather was nice, by going for walks, working out as I could, trying to be creative with, weights. So funny though, like, all of my clients had everything they needed, and I'm like, how the will I have one band and just one 10-pound weight? Just one, not even two. And all my clients are set. They're like, oh, can you make me a home workout program? And I was like, like, why do you have all this stuff? But like, I guess when you're in the habit of going to the gym and you're comfortable, like you don't need this stuff at home. But somebody who's not comfortable, they're gonna get all their stuff at home and not use it. So um, I did that, and then I had seen that my trainer, she was doing live workouts on Instagram. I was like, oh, well, if she could do something like that to kind of like keep herself busy, why can't I do that? So I had done that on Facebook and kind of got in with like the little like military community that I have, and the little Facebook community with our village here. And I kept myself going with that, and that was actually really fun. It really helped me be comfortable talking, and now, like as you can tell, I just talk all day long. um,
Oh, I love it. You're one of my easier guests. I love this. This is great.
um, I just remember, like, I would be doing my little hit workout and I'd be talking in the middle of it, and then people would pop up with their comments like, "Oh my gosh, how are you talking so fast while you're jumping around like that?" And um, man, like I talked so much, and my husband would just be in here playing his video games. And I think like the other like really cool thing, like um, because my husband worked so much and he was gone, we actually got to be together more than we ever have. And it was so good. Like, I feel like it was so good for us. He may have got like a little bit annoyed. I'm like, don't you want to go for a walk? And he's like, why would I come want to go for a walk? And but I feel like it was so good for us. And I actually think this is why this last deployment has been a lot harder, because we were together so much, and then suddenly he was gone. For me, I'm sure for him it was fine, but for me it was a lot harder this time. But during COVID, I tried to get outside as much as I could, doing the workouts. And once like it lightened a little bit, I had clients come into the garage before the gym opened up, and I'm like, look, this is what I got. I need you to sign a liability waiver because this might fall over on you. But yeah.
No, yeah, that is great. And I mean, I hate cardio more than life itself. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I absolutely hate. I mean, I can walk for forever. Like I live next to nature parks, so I can go on walks and stuff. But that running is just. Yeah, and that with being a baseball pitcher, that was the one thing that we did is trying to build up the legs, is go on runs, and I mean, I absolutely hated it. But you said before that like you love to go running. You were thinking about even just going back to being sort of like that track and field, physicality. But what is your relationship like with cardio, especially when you get into preps? Because like as someone who loves it, it's very easy to overdo it when it comes to trying to get that toned and lean look. Like you can overdo it very easily when you're doing as much training as you are in your preps.
Yeah. So last year I did hardly no cardio. So that was very hard because that's like my mental thing, and trying to gain weight. And fortunately, I do have a fast metabolism, but I have known that like if I start running, like I will probably lose weight and lean out pretty quickly and not look how I need to, which is great for somebody with the mindset that I have, but not great for what the actual goal is in your overall health. So um I do have to be a little bit careful. I have one hit workout or interval workout a week. I really like one of my goals this year is, and actually for the past like 2 years, has really been to try to listen to my body. Um, I haven't. One of the other reasons why I switched to bikini was I didn't really feel like I could train like I needed to for fitness, because you got to practice your jumps, you got to practice everything, and I've had like an ongoing pulled muscle in the back of my leg, for in my hamstring, and then I also had it in my groin, and I've always been that person that's like, "Ugh, it'll go away." Well, I'm not in my 20s anymore, and it didn't go away at the beginning of 2020, and I let it go all the way until November 2020 before I actually went and saw a physical therapist. So when the gyms opened back up, I definitely was not able to squat, and I had been working out in a cement garage in old shoes and jumping around and made it actually like pretty bad. Um, so now, fortunately, it's starting to get better, and I did it. Like my second interval workout in 2 years just the other day. And I messaged my trainer. I was like, oh, that felt so amazing. She's probably like, you're a weirdo. But like you really can overdo it. And I am going to try not to do that, because I like to see if I can run faster and go more. And oh, can I do this interval for longer than 30 seconds? Let me see if I can do it for a minute and a half now. And it's um, not good, especially if you have injuries that you have to be aware of too. Like my PT he would be like, "Don't do that."
I mean, the thing that I hate most about running is that it is good for you, because then it's like, okay, it's good for your heart and it's good. So yeah, everyone, you still have to go do it. But yeah, I do it, dragging my feet basically. But sleep is the most important thing in this lifestyle, and probably in just general, anyways. What does your sleep schedule look like? Because I mean, your sleep as a competitor can be very bipolar at times.
Dude, sleep has been a hard thing for me since I was little. And I think it kind of stems from like probably being anxious a little bit. And my mom said I used to like wake up and I'd be hungry. It's all like so weird. When you like get older, you realize things. You're like, that kind of makes sense now why I
Oh,
am
I do
always
that every day, basically. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I really have a hard time with sleep. I have taken melatonin, but I don't really like it because it definitely makes me, yeah, it makes me feel like really groggy in the morning. I started taking some stuff called Fade Out from Redcon One, and I do like that because I don't get groggy, and it works like that. Like I try to like sometimes I'll take it at like it's weird though. If I take it at 7:30, I'm ready for bed by like 9:30. But if I don't take it on time, I don't go to sleep until forever. So I think that could be like also like a mindset thing. I've really had to be aware of like my caffeine intake, because I probably drink way too much caffeine. I used to drink like 5 cups of coffee, and then it's like, oh, an energy drink would be cool. And oh, let's have some pre-workout. Oh, no wonder why you can't sleep. No wonder why you can't sit still. And when I started cutting back on that, so I usually have like 2 cups of coffee now and pre-workout, but I kind of use a non-stim as well, so that's really nice. But I try to get to bed and get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Like 6 hours isn't quite enough. 7 hours, I'm super excited when I get it, and I'm lucky if I get eight. Like the other day, I finally got my fade out, and it taken forever to get here because I'd ordered it from the States, and it was like, is it gonna get here? Um, finally got here and I took it at like 7:30 and I was in bed and out by 9:30. It was great. And I had my alarm set for 6 and I don't think I've slept that long in forever. And the little baggies under my eyes the next morning, I always have them, but they were less puffy. And I was like, oh my gosh, does all I have to do is go to bed earlier and be more consistent with that? Because I'm a little bit insecure about them. I'm like, ugh, they're so baggy. But yeah, sleep is so important, and you notice it more in your body, like that and water. Like sleep, when I sleep well and have restful sleep and a little bit more than 6 hours, and I drink my full gallon of water, I feel so much better. And I don't know why I don't drink all the water all the time because it's like a huge difference.
Absolutely. I mean, the only problem with that is, I mean, I basically have to have my bathroom be like right next to my bedroom because that's, but that's a whole different subject. But I mean, like, let's be honest, you're not the average looking woman, especially in the UK, where I mean, muscular women aren't really as seem to be as popular in the UK as it is in the States, and in the States it's still very odd. But like, if you were to walk out in public just the way you are right now, like, you are going to get stares, just because I like to compare it to being like a mini celebrity, where it's just like, if people see something that's not the normal, they're just like, oh wow, that's interesting. What has that been like for you, just sort of getting used to the fact that, like, hey, I will draw a little bit more people's attention maybe than before when I wasn't competing?
Yeah, okay, well, I'm not gonna lie. So I have these shorts that I'm wearing today. They're
I
yellow.
saw them when you turned the lights off, and I was like, okay, yeah, those are really short shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're when I got them, they weren't that short. My I feel like my lower body has developed a little bit. And but they're like the high rise ones. They like ride up, so you can like pull them down. They're not as short, but they were so cute online. And I was like, I'm gonna be pulling these down because they're gonna make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. So today, like I was going to get gas and on the military base, like gas, you gotta wait forever because
Isn't it
the
like
one
$8 a gallon or something like that in the UK too? Like, I heard it's like
gal
it's ridiculously expensive.
yeah, I don't even know what it is because we pay in liters. So I'm just like, debit card. I was filling up my husband's Jeep because he has a big vehicle and he's coming home soon, and I wanted to. I'll be ready for him, and I'm like, all right, $50 is enough for my brain to handle right now. So like you go up and walk and pay, but you got a line of cars, and I'm like, oh, my shorts are way too short for doing this right now. And on a military base, I actually really should be a little bit more mindful because they do have a dress code, but they don't really enforce it. They should, like, they really should, and I should follow it. I didn't. And I know that like sometimes I get stares. Like I honestly don't want to get stares, but I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel comfortable in my clothes. And if I'm being honest, if I lived in California, I would walk around in shorts and a bathing suit top all day long, like all day long, especially if I'm feeling confident. And but I was going up to pay gas, and I'm like, oh, I should not be wearing these shorts right now. And I'm not a fan of guys staring, not a fan of all of that. So I should have been a little bit more dressed. And I have these other yellow shorts. I don't know if yellow is my favorite color, but they have like the cute little scrunch bum, which I also shouldn't wear into the gym because they have their dress code rules on base. And they have this anonymous Facebook group. I'm not a part of it because it's just disgusting on there. But I had one of my clients come in and she was like, Corinne, you were on the anonymous Facebook page. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh yeah, somebody was like, the girl in the yellow shorts, she's doing great. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm ever wearing those again during like regular hours. And uh yeah, so you do kind of get like
It
some
could have been the other girl in the yellow shorts, you don't know.
it could have been, but I've had about 5 people be like, "You're the only one with yellow shorts." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, when I'm on the military base, I do feel like, you do get a little bit more looks. However, you get people walking around in their pajamas and like, did you even look at yourself today? And I know that sounds like really bad and judgmental because I like sometimes I'm like, did I look at myself today? But over here in England, everyone wears everything. Like you have people walking around who are goths. You have people who are walking around in crop tops and like oh, like platform shoes that are like this high. Like this is the fashion area. And I don't really feel uncomfortable wearing my short shorts around town in England. I really don't. When I we have a little co-op down that I like to walk to get our food and stuff. And when I got my tan done and I was walking around in my tan, you get so many people being like, "Oh, is that tan real?" No, bro. No. We get people asking about that stuff and like, "Oh wow, your legs look really nice." And the British people are very they don't have a problem asking. And it's kind of cool because they're just being friendly. But it is a little bit like, "Ugh, why are you looking at me?"
How many times on the base have you been like confused for an actual soldier because of the way that you look? Because I think more people be like, "Oh, she's got to be in the military," than the way that she looks like that. Yeah.
None, actually. I've never had anyone ask me. Well, I guess I've had people be like, "Oh, like, are you in the military?" But never in the gym. I think probably because because I'm a personal trainer on base. People know that I'm a spouse. Um, I have had people off base be like, "Oh, like, what do you do in the military?" Like, "Oh, I'm I'm a personal trainer. I'm a spouse." I try not to be like, "Oh, I'm just a spouse." I actually had somebody, the guy who actually came and picked up my card today, I was like, "Oh, I'm just a spouse." He's like, "You're not just a spouse." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." So, you can definitely get in the mindset of that sometimes, but
Well, and
yeah.
also, I mean, being a personal trainer was your favorite part about being a personal trainer, and least favorite part about being a personal trainer.
Okay, so my least favorite part is scheduling.
Yep.
Like, that is a and like when people don't show up, like, what is wrong with you? I felt so bad, by the way, the other day. I was like, yeah, I did that.
No, no worries. Believe me,
Um,
I it happens to me all the time. I completely understand.
I feel like it's like one of the most rude and disrespectful things when someone like sets aside time for you and you're like, yep, not showing up. Um,
I'm Minnesotan. The whole passive aggressive thing. I mean, it's it. I understand. Yeah, no, no worries at all. Yeah.
Yeah, like it took all 4 years for me to charge my clients first. Like, okay, you need to pay upfront like the week before, and you'll lose your session if you don't cancel within 24 hours. It took so long because I felt like I was being mean, and I felt like, okay, well, life comes up, and in the military, like literally, you cannot plan anything. If one thing in the military is true, that is true. Like you cannot plan anything. Like we're trying to plan to go on a trip when he comes home, and we've bought our tickets, but his leave hasn't been approved. But if his leave gets approved, but we don't have tickets, like we're not going to be able to book tickets, so there's not going to be anything left. So it's like, ugh, okay, cool. Um, but I think my favorite part is when like there's a new person that wants to get started, and obviously they're like super excited, but they're like we do our little assessment and they get on like the leg press, or I like to do like some of the stuff that I usually do in some of my first workouts, like a lat pull down, or get them on the bench press because like women don't do a lot of bench press. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, like that's 45 pounds? Like the bar is 45 pounds? Go me. Like, how much should I just leg press with no weight on there? It's just 118 pounds. I did 200. Oh, I'm telling my husband, like he's gonna be, and it's the cutest thing. And like you see their confidence go from like hunched shoulders in the gym, like just from doing the assessment to being like, oh, like oh, like I did that. And I really think like when you become more aware of your body, like you I tell my clients like I want to help you build your confidence basically. I want you to help build your confidence with your body, and then I want you to take it with you with your family, like with your job, with your school, with everywhere. Like anything that you can learn in the gym when it applies to like your confidence, I want it to bleed out into the other areas of your life. And I think that's what it's done for me. Um, and that's kind of what I want it to do for them. If they never become a bodybuilder, fine. That's like actually not my intention at all. I'm working with a couple of girls this year, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of hard. Like prepping somebody. Like no wonder why I have a trainer. But like getting people into the proper lifestyle, and I can't say proper, a sustainable lifestyle for them because it's going to be different for every person. It is really kind of cool, and they realize like, oh, this really isn't that bad. Like I have one girl, she's been so consistent for at least 16 weeks. And like it's the little things like, oh, my husband's like smacking my butt and like, oh, like I'm getting stronger. And Corinne, like I didn't want to go in today, but I went in and there was traffic and I really didn't like I didn't want to sit in the traffic, but hey, I went in anyways. And oh, like I went in at 5:30 in the morning because nobody's there and it's so much better and there's no dudes burping and doing this. And I'm like, yeah. And they really start to just like it and they have more energy. And now one of them's doing yoga and her little son's like, oh mommy, can I do yoga with you? And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. So like those like little things I think are my favorite because those add up to the big things that actually can change your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the last few questions here. I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say, like, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing you'd like to see changed?
I feel like that's so hard. Wow. I feel like my instinct, but then honestly, like if it was natural, I think it's so hard because like I know like the history of it, like when you think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like it's just so unhealthy. But like people are gonna do what they're gonna do, they're gonna choose it, and that's fine. Like and I guess the cool, not cool thing is that there a lot of them are monitored, but there's this last year was so sad. Like there were a lot of deaths and I didn't like realize how prevalent it was. And I was like, is that because they're using like either performance enhancing drug or steroid or something that I don't even know? Like, am I using one? Like I like the like I just feel like it's really sad for something that is considered supposed to be like so healthy. Why are you doing that to yourself? Because that's not healthy. I mean, but then when I think of that, I'm like, okay, some of the things that I do to myself aren't healthy. Like, yeah, I think that's what I would change. It would be we would actually be healthy people because we're not when you think
I'll
about
plead
it.
the fifth. I'll give you my opinion on it as soon as I turn this podcast off because I've had too many people that are obviously just like juiced to the gills on this podcast to give my opinion on it. So I'll tell you it off the record. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's and for me too, it's like I'm sorry, but if you're a pro in this sport, you should not be able to have, or I mean, you should be able to just be financially compensated enough where you shouldn't need to have a full time job. I mean, this is a hard enough lifestyle as it is without anything else, any other distractions. So that for me, and just the judging too, where it's like one show they might want you a little bit more of a leaner look, then the other show they might want you a little bit more of a fuller look, and it's like, oh, there's 2 weeks in between that show. Good luck. I just wish they'd have general, just a better. Like this is exactly what we want and what we're looking for, and just try your best to look like that. Then I guess.
What a good like I honestly would have never even thought of that. I guess maybe because I haven't like made maybe a significant amount of money, but yes, like or like have the sponsors to like back you up where it's like, okay, yeah, you get your supplements and everything and you get your clothing, but do you think maybe like you could compensate for like my airfare or something? Um Eh, yeah, that would be amazing, like, if you actually got, like, paid for all that because a lot of things, like, now everyone wants you to be an affiliate for them so they can get, like, free marketing, but, like and you get a percentage off, but it's like, mm, I don't know. You gotta do a lot of work to make a little bit of money.
Yep. And being a bodybuilder, what would you say is probably the biggest misconception that the general public has about the sport of bodybuilding? One thing that you hear a lot.
Um, oh, geez, well, I feel like I don't listen to a lot of it, I guess. What do I hear a lot? I actually don't I don't know. I don't know if it's just how I've kind of like I think a lot of people think it's weird, honestly. I think a lot of people like, why would you want to go up and do that? Why would you want to put yourself through that? And then just for them to like mark you down or whatever and not do it again or something. But
Well, that
I
actually
don't
leads me perfectly into my next question, where I was going to ask, like, I hear this all the time from people that when I say talk to bodybuilders, they just go, "Well, ask them why. Why do you do that? Why do you put yourself through all of that stuff to walk on stage and get judged?" I bet you probably heard that a couple of times. How do you like to respond to that? Because that's one thing that I'm very curious about too myself. Because there have been, I mean, as for someone who's been into the fitness lifestyle as much as I have, there are even times where I'm talking to guests and I was like, why the hell do they do this?
Why do they do that? You know, for me, I think I like the challenge, and I kind of like the process. And I think the whole thing with the confidence and the mind part, it really helps me thrive in other areas. Honestly, I think it helps me live my life better. I think it helps me live my life better. It definitely helps with my food stuff better. And Yeah, it really challenges you. Like, what else is going to challenge you like that? Like, there's not a whole lot of things that are. Um, and when you got to like go out there and have your one shot out there, you get to see how you do. And I mean, if you love it, great. This last 16 weeks of your life was worth it. And if not, you got in amazing shape and you can go eat whatever you want for the rest of your life. Like, it's kind of like it's not something that you have to choose. It's something that you get to do, and it adds to your life. One of the things that my coach said, she was like, we get to do this. Like, we don't have to do this. Like, it's not like we're in China and this is what we have to do. This is what you're born to do, and you don't have any other options. And if you suck at it, well, like, bye. Um, like, we get the option to do this, and we get the option to do it the best that we can, and make the most of it. And it should add to your life. And if it's not, then why are you doing it? And I questioned myself a lot at the end of last year. Like, I don't think it was adding to my life, as far as like my health and towards the end. And I was like, I want this to add to my life. So that's why I did it.
Absolutely. Well, and one thing that I've noticed from talking to you and from your Instagram is that you're a very vascular person. And for me, I could be down to 1% body fat and I won't have any veins at all. Was that something that you always were? Because from all the people I've talked to, I think it's either something that you're born with or something that you do develop after a while. But like, I'm one of those unblessed people where like I have gotten down to like 6, 7% body fat and like I'll have one vein in my shoulder and that's it.
Oh, I think I kind of have like good genetics and very white skin.
Oh, look at this.
Um,
I'm reflecting off the damn sun that's out right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm from California, and I was not blessed with the tan olive skin like my sister was. But I've always had good veins. Always been like a good one to give blood, when I was allowed to. But yeah, I got a good vein. Both of them are pretty good. Um, yeah, I've kind of always been like that, and I kind of think I just have good genetics. My dad did track. He was pretty athletic, and my mom is more like stocky and athletic. So yeah.
I got that Norwegian farmer build basically, so it's not that's my whole family is just a bunch of farmers from Norway basically. So yeah, I have to deal with that.
Farmers are very important people. Like, where my family's from, we got ranchers. So
Mhm.
like, yep,
They just have
yep.
that stocky build, but yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would love to have you on a year from now. You're just such a great guest and so easy to talk to. Where would you like to be at a year from today when we have you back on?
Oh geez. Well, I'll be living somewhere else by then.
Is it going to be still in England or is it you moving back or?
We're not really sure. And I'm actually not really sure if I'm allowed to say,
Oh
but
yeah, it's yeah, I understand. Yeah.
yeah, it won't be England. It won't be England, and I may be back in the States, but my husband may be elsewhere. So it'll just kind of depend on how the orders go. But where would I like to be? I don't think anyone's asked me that since I like took a college
I
like
was going to say like my high school guidance counselor was probably the last one that asked me something like that.
yeah. I feel like I would like to be a little bit more established as a bikini competitor. Like, there are a gazillion bikini competitors. Like, how am I going to establish myself? Like, even just saying that, like, so I think like maybe making a statement how Corinne can with whatever that is, and however that is. And I think I'd also like to be a little bit more um I tend to let my emotions take control. I think I'd like to be a little bit better at that. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I have no idea if he would watch this. but my husband. He's awesome, and man, sometimes like when they're gone for so long, you have all the reasons to like be angry and upset and mad because you can like get resentful. But like literally, he's like doing the best that he can with where he's at, and he's been really supportive for me. He hasn't been able to go to any of the competitions, and to be honest, I don't think he would because like I, I don't know, like they don't look like they're fun from the audience unless you know what you're looking at, and he knows, but like he doesn't know. But I would like to just give him a shout out because like he's literally like just he's very patient with me, and I can't wait to get a hug from him, honestly.
What do you think he prefers more, your prep look or your off-season look?
I think he prefers my off season look for sure. Yeah, he's definitely made comments about that.
I will say
So
I have hugged a handful of people that are just about to get ready for a show, and it's like you're hugging a skeleton, and you're just like, okay, like what am I feeling here? Really? There's it's just
yeah,
bone basically. So yeah,
yeah.
I understand that. But yeah, that is awesome. And I mean, everyone, go and check out Korean's Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below for it. And again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. It was an absolute delight to talk to you, and I cannot wait to see what you've accomplished when we talk to you a year from now.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.